Hey everyone, Howard Gearhauser here alongside my dad, Dr. Richard Gearhauser. In today's video episode, we are going to talk about the health benefits of red light. So many of you may have heard of red light therapy as a very popular healing modality, but there's a lot of different health benefits that come from red light, and there's different sources of red light. So we wanted to go through some of those sources, explain why red light's so beneficial for our health, and then also just do a deeper dive into what you can do to start getting more of this red light into your life. So Dad, can you just give us a little bit of scientific background on red light and why it's beneficial for our bodies?
Right. Red light, if you think of the frequencies of light, so red light is, there's visible red light, the stuff we see that's red, and then there's invisible red light, which is called infrared light. And they're both beneficial. So red light, the beneficial frequencies, there's been thousands of studies of red light. There's different names for using red light, like photobiomodulation or low-level light therapy. So there's different names for it. If you go on the internet and Google it and see the products they have out there, they have one that fit like a cap fits on your head, and that's for hair loss. And then they have it for women and men for the skin. It increases collagen formation. For wrinkles. So you see all these applications out there, a lot of people selling red lights, and the market's really tough because a lot of these products are really not worth anything because they don't have the power density or they don't have the right frequency. So it's one of those things that's a tough area to really know what you're getting. But what does red light do in our body? Well, we talk a lot about the exclusion zone in water, and this is all complex science. I don't want to get into a bunch of complex science, but the exclusion zone in water is where water becomes a liquid crystal, and when it does that, it creates a battery inside our cell, and it makes our mitochondria much more efficient at making energy. So energy is a key to life. So red light increases our energy. One way is through this exclusion zone in water. So the water absorbs the red frequencies, and then this crystal, liquid crystal, expands with red light, and also expands with UV light. So that's one of the benefits, although you won't see that in the published studies. Like if you look at the published studies, they're not going to mention that aspect of light. But I feel from my extensive research in this area that that's one of the big things that red light does, is builds this exclusion zone, which is a battery. It charges our battery. And we know this from Gerald Pollack's work. He's up in Washington State, and he's at one of the major universities there and has done this research, has written a book that I highly recommend getting because it's for lay people. The Fourth Phase of Water by Gerald Pollack explains this process, and there's no doubt this process happens, and there's no doubt that UV light and red light make this battery bigger. But it does a lot of other things. As I mentioned a minute ago, it increases collagen formation, so it helps wrinkling. It helps wound care. But red light is also absorbed by Cytochrome C oxidase. So our mitochondria make ATP, our energy currency. When mitochondria dysfunction as we get older, that leads to diseases and aging. And so if we want to have a longer health span, we want our mitochondria making lots of ATP up until the point where we die, where we check out. We want to have a good quality of life until that time that we check out. So cytochrome C oxidase, the rate limiting step of respiration. So respiration is basically another term for making ATP. It's where it takes that electron as it's transferred down that wire that's in the mitochondria, and it offloads that electron onto oxygen. So that last step, the rate limiting step of producing ATP, is done by the enzyme Cytochrome C oxidase, which absorbs several frequencies of red light. So it makes that last step more efficient. So those are the mechanisms. You know, it's kind of deep science, complicated science. We'll just, you know, leave it at that with the science.
So red light has numerous health benefits, and I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are probably wondering, is it okay to just buy a red light, or is there a better way to go about incorporating the red light? What do you recommend in terms of increasing your intake of this red light?
All right. Well, the problem again with the products is they're all over the map, and I haven't like tested every single product out there. There might be a lot of good products, but I think you're more likely to get a bad product that either doesn't have enough power, or it doesn't have the right frequency, or it has flicker. So flicker is something that happens with the alternating current, which is what we have here in the United States. In our power grid, we have the alternating current, and the alternating current creates, let's say if you use a red LED light, which a lot of these products are LEDs. If you use a red LED light, then there can be a lot of flicker if you're not watching out for that. So if a company's making a red light, they, you know, want to sell it and make a profit, but they don't look deeply into the research. And flicker is something that isn't widely known in medicine or in engineering, light engineering. So it's not something that's really on the radar of an engineer that's designing a red light. So a lot of them don't even take it into consideration. So we can give you the name of a light. Now this light is not inexpensive. So, you know, it's an investment in your health. Now, so we'll give you the name of one that has low flicker and high power and the right frequencies. So those are the key things. But the best way to get the red light is the sun. The sun is almost half red light. The light from the sun, if you count the visible red light and then the infrared light that we can't see, it's almost half, or sometimes even, it depends on the time of day, even over half of the sunlight is red light. So if you want to get a great red light therapy, go outside. You'll always get red light if you go outside. Now there is a golden hour. The golden hour is typically the first hour after sunrise. So if you look at the timetable, see when sunrise is, in that first hour, the sun is mostly red and blue and green and yellow. But you don't have the ultraviolet. So the ultraviolet is not visible, but it's there. So that golden hour means there's no ultraviolet. Now the ultraviolet is the smallest frequency of light from the sun, the shortest wavelength, and it has the shortest wavelength means it has the most power. So the ultraviolet light has the power to do good and the power to do bad. And we'll talk, we'll have a whole session on ultraviolet light, you know, what you need to watch for and the good aspects of ultraviolet light. So you do want ultraviolet light, but ultraviolet light can damage your DNA, could increase your risk of a sunburn or skin cancer. So the ultraviolet you have to watch out for more. So using that golden hour to your advantage, no risk, all benefit. So you want to be outside that first hour after sunrise, and then the last hour before sunset, you know, take a walk on the beach and see the sun sink into the ocean. If you're on the West Coast, you know, that's something we love to do. And it's something that, you know, gives you an emotional, happy charge. I don't know if it does that to you, but it does that to me every time I see a sunset. It does it. And so the red light we know the red light improves the function of neurons in our brain. It decreases the activity of the glial cells that tend to become overactive in things like traumatic brain injury or cognitive problems with thinking or brain function. They like create a hyperactivity or a hyperinflammation aspect in the brain. So the red light soothes that. So that's one of the things that red light has been shown to do. So the lights that we'll have in the description below, one that we think right now, as I say, there could be many out there that are good. Some of the major ones out there I know are not so good, but I'm not going to cut anyone down because I don't know everything, you know. I don't know that I'm 100% right on anything. Everything is changing in our world as we learn new stuff, and that's why we keep our nose on the research and the comments that people are making. So we try to do that for you guys, so you know the latest of, you know, what are the benefits, what are the risks.
So you have a light that you keep in your kitchen and a red light, and you seem to keep it on most of the day. Could you just explain to our viewers, when should they have the red light on? Where should they put it in their home if they do decide to purchase one? Can you go a little more in depth on that?
Well, there's two things. I mean, one thing is you can do a red light treatment. So let's say, you know, your back went out and you're trying to use red light to diminish pain and to allow healing in your tissues from a back injury. Then you'd want a light fairly close. Oh, that's the other thing. I'll just mention it now is lights, because they're hooked to the power grid. They also have an electromagnetic field that is not good if you're too close to it. So that's another problem that a red light can have, is that they don't think about the engineers that make the light don't think about the electromagnetic field, the EMF, the non-native EMF that light is producing. That could be counterproductive and, you know, expose you to non-native EMF. And we talk ad nauseum about that in other videos. So there are companies that design the components so that if you're, say, 10 inches away from the light, because that's where you can get the strongest therapy for your back injury, that the EMF has dropped off if they design it right. So again, you have to have an engineer or a company that's thinking about your health from all these different aspects. So if you're treating something, then you need to be bare skin within a short distance so that the power density of the light is strong enough to penetrate. And red light penetrates pretty deep, centimeters, you know, up to 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters into the body. So red light penetrates very deeply into your body. So doing a therapy is one aspect. Now, another aspect is just having red light in the background, because the problem with our tech devices or indoor lighting is that it's mostly blue, and blue is the highest frequency, has the smallest wavelength of the visible light. So it has the most power of visible light. So that means it does the most damage. So that's why blue light in isolation that's in all of our tech devices is not good. Red, as we mentioned, regenerates. So if you balance, if you have a red light in the background while you're on your computer or on your cell phone or watching TV, then you will do less damage to your retina or to your skin. So this is a light you could have in the background if you're on your tech devices. So this is a good thing to have going on if, you know, you work and you got to be on the computer, or you just want to be on the computer, you want to scroll your Facebook pages, having a red light in the background. Now, there's inexpensive ways to just get some basic red light. And one way to do that is a heat lamp that you buy at Home Depot or one of the those lamps they use in restaurants to keep your food warm. It's sitting there, and they put your plate of food after the chef makes it, and that light's keeping your food warm. Well, you can buy those lights, and you can have, you know, the proper receptacle and have that light in the background. That isn't going to necessarily have the frequencies that the research has shown have the most benefit, because they're made not thinking about these benefits, but they have a broad spectrum. They have everywhere from 600 to 1,000 nanometer frequencies, which includes the red, the near infrared, and the far infrared. So it has a big spectrum of that red light. And I keep one of those on, like in my kitchen, whenever I'm on the computer, that is on, but it's in the background, and it's letting that hit my skin and my eyes to balance out the high blue that's in a computer screen. Now, you can't take the blue out of computer screens with the software Iris. So Iris is a very good program that you can download onto your computer. It's a low-cost program, but if you get the pro version, you can adjust exactly how much blue you want in your screen. So I do a combination of all these things to try to reduce my exposure. Now, the red light has been shown to help the retina regenerate. So we know it works. We know that this red light improves your ability of your retina to regenerate and stay healthy. Whereas blue light, we know, new studies have shown, several studies, and these studies seem to be coming out every day, that blue light damages the retina when it's isolated, when it's not balanced by red. Now, the sun is always balanced by red. So the sun really doesn't hurt your retina, you know, unless you stare at it in midday for too long. And we don't recommend doing that.
So there's obviously a lot of health benefits to incorporating red light. So you want to make sure that you start doing that right away. Like we mentioned in a lot of these videos, get out and see the sunrise, get out and see the sunset. These are great for a lot of different reasons, including the red light. The other thing about red light, which is pretty interesting, is that if you don't expose your skin to red light before the UV light comes out, your skin becomes more susceptible to UV damage. So that's something to consider too. The red light does charge up your skin, so to speak, so that it can tolerate that UV light later in the day. So make sure you're getting that morning sunlight. Is there anything else you wanted to add on red light before we sign off?
Yeah, so that red light, as we say, it's used as a treatment for wrinkles. So it definitely powers up the skin. And as Howard mentioned, it's great to see that red light probably allows you to absorb more of the ultraviolet light that we talk about on another video, and make that ultraviolet light safer. And so do we know that, let's say, I mean, it has anti-aging effects, but I'd just like to mention a study that's done in the fruit flies. So the fruit fly is something scientists study a lot because their genome is known pretty well, because they've been studied ad nauseum. Most of the circadian biology was worked out on research on fruit flies. And so they've done some studies on exposing fruit flies to red light. So a fruit fly lives for about 11 days. And that's why you can see really quickly if something improves your lifespan, because a human, you know, they live to 80, you know, we're not going to be alive when that study ends. If you got to wait till 80 to see if the red light makes you live longer, those studies will never be done, because it's just, you know, it's not feasible. But on a fruit fly, that's easy. 11 days, you'll know. So they did a study on fruit flies, and they took the fruit flies, and one group got the red light therapy. And this was the 640 nanometer red light. So there's different frequencies that have been shown in study after study to cause the benefits, and one is in the mid 600s and another is in the mid 800s. So the 800s is near infrared, red is in the 600s. So these were exposed to the red light. And what it did is, fruit flies live this 11 days. Well, the red light didn't increase their lifespan, but they measure how vigorous a fruit fly is by how far up the edge of the cage, the fruit fly cage, how far they climb up. And they find that the red light exposed flies climb higher, like younger flies, till later in life. And the other thing they found is that there was a 180% increase in the number of flies living to their maximum lifespan compared to the flies that didn't get the red light. So made many more flies live to be that 11 days instead of dying at 10 days. So it definitely increased their health span to where they really fulfilled their lifespan, but they didn't live longer. So at 12 days, all the flies are dead, red light or not. So it didn't increase their lifespan, but more of the fruit flies lived to that maximum lifespan of 11 days. So it's possible that could happen in humans too. So if you get that red light, and really the best way is be outdoors, you get a lot of red light, you're much more likely, theoretically, to live to that. For humans, it's around 80 years in the United States, the maximum lifespan. Live there and be younger as far as your ability to climb and your ability to do mental things as well. It's something that you should be doing anyway because it sets your circadian clocks, and that might be part of why it works if you get the red light. But this was just isolating that mid 600 wavelength really had a profound effect on making the fruit flies younger and having them live to that ultimate, lifespan of a fruit fly.
Right. And, it makes sense from a common sense standpoint that the red light, being that it's such a critical part of the sun, that it would be important for our physiology and our life and our health span. So when we moved indoors, we're no longer getting the red light from the sun. It's no wonder why our health starts to fall apart. So red light's critically important, as is everything in the sun and everything in nature. So like we say in every video, get out in nature more. Think back to how your ancestors lived and start doing more of that. Anything else you want to add on red light?
No, it just they're studying it further. They're doing trials now on Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, traumatic brain injury. So this is an exciting thing because besides the cost and maybe the problems with the engineering of the light doing some things wrong, there is very little risk. There are not side effects, or at least there doesn't appear to be any side effects from getting red light.
So start incorporating more red light into your life. Again, in the description, we will put a link to that red light that my dad recommends, the one that he has in his kitchen. Again, it's pretty expensive, but it meets all the criteria that he thinks are important in terms of which red light you purchase. You can also do your own research too. There's a lot of red light products out there. Also, if you're someone who is looking for some guidance and accountability and support on your journey to optimal health and would like to work with my dad and myself and our team of experts to help you get there, you can check out the link to look into our coaching program. We do have some spots available on that if you're interested. If not, like always, just make sure you're implementing this information. We're here to help you guys and to serve you guys, but you got to, fulfill your end of the bargain and actually go implement these things into your life if you want to see the benefit. I think that's it for this video. This one's been pretty long, but make sure to go check out our other videos on the YouTube channel, Quantum Possibility, if you'd like to have some more free information as well. Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.